On February 23, 2024, leading luxury EV maker Lotus Technology and global investment firm L. Catterton Asia Acquisition Corp. Completed their merger and debuted on NASDAQ, marking a leap forward in the electric transformation of the global automotive sphere. Right before the IPO of the company, I spoke to a key member of the law firm who advised this business combination, Mr. Luan Haoran from Hong Kong. A graduate of Singapore National University and Columbia Law School, Haoran holds a license to practice law in both Singapore and New York. He works at one of the most prestigious white shoe law firms, Skadden Arps. This video is a part of the series People Growing Up on We Talk. Subscribe to hear expertise in industries you're interested in, law, literature, tech, and more, and learn about the fundamental moments in our guest speakers' lives when they decided, this is what I want to do. Welcome back to We Talk. Today is more of a special format kind of episode. We're going to have some water, have some food, and we're going to talk about your life. So are you ready?
Of course.
To begin, can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your education?
Sure. So my name is Haoran. I was brought up mainly in China. So I did my primary school in China, I did my secondary school in China, I went on to Singapore for full education, so I had my junior colleges and university in Singapore. But after that, I moved on to National University of Singapore, and I did my bachelor in law. And then I practiced for a few years, and I moved on to Columbia for my master education. And I'm currently working for a US firm called Skadden Arps. And that's a very short summary of my academic journey so far.
A very esteemed academic journey.
It's not.
What led you to want to pursue law?
Well, the money for sure. Well, I think aside from that, when I first applied for law school, I think the States is very different because you only get to go to law school in graduate school.
Yes.
So you got to pursue an undergraduate before you move on to a professional sort of education. But in Singapore, we had the opportunity to actually go straight to law school as an undergrad. So I think back then, it's mainly the concept of equality, justice, those sort of things that drive me or drove me towards pursuing a legal education.
Yeah.
Right.
And can you recall a specific experience during your childhood or teenage years that made you especially passionate about justice?
Well, there's a lot. It might be unique to the trajectory of the Chinese development. It's I think ever after the opening up of the economy back in the 1990s. So there's a slogan, let some people get rich first. So I think gradually, as China's economy takes off, you see a ever-widening income gap amongst the relatively less privileged and those who benefit significantly from the economic development. So particularly in cities like Shenzhen, where we're sitting at, this is the forefront of the economic development of the opening up. So you do see a lot of people accumulating a huge amount of wealth. At the same time, that it means that the income gap will get ever widening. So you see a lot of social problems arising from that income disparity. So I think maybe that's one thing that just etched into my mind. And then when I was choosing my undergrad, I think that's one of the reasons that I went out to law.
And do you have any specific activities you did when you were younger that you think are helping you become a great lawyer today?
Oh, well, I was not really in a debate team. There's not a formal debate team or debate system. But then I was in debate, and I think the other thing was I was in Lions Club. It was actually a club originated from the United States, but it's a charity oriented organization. So they help poor sort of less privileged people in need all over the world. So what the signature program they do free cataract operations. So they go into Tibetan region because Tibetan is famous for high altitude. So people are very prone to cataract problems. You are really exposed to sunlight, ultraviolet.
Is that your time?
That's right, exactly. And due to the very limited access to medical care, so a lot of them, very young kids, 2 years old, they've never seen daylight, they've never seen colors before. But it's actually a very easy operation if you have the medical resources. So Lion Club will actually bring professional medical volunteers, and they cure maybe 200, 300 people a night. So they've been doing that since 1990, 30 years. I was fortunate enough to take part in, I think, 1 or 2 of those trips. And it was just you get to see how basic the Tibetan's life is, how religious is it, how basic it is. But then, when you go back from those trips, you're back to downtown, you're back to these very busy urban vibes. So I think that's kind of disparity I was very...
You're exposed to.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit more about what you do currently as a lawyer. What kind of lawyer are you and what kind of work do you do?
So I think in terms of legal practice, one of the two major legal practices, either corporate or litigation. So like litigation are those lawyers where you see, in typical like Hong Kong soap opera, where this, you have this huge book inherited from the rich system. So those are the litigation lawyers. They do litigation. For me, I'm doing corporate law. So basically helping companies in whatever they need in the corporate world. And personally, I'm more focused on capital markets. Basically, helping companies raising funds through all sorts of channels, be it public, which is the IPOs, and the listed companies have different channels of raising money, or be it private, where private rounds of financing. So we do basically we cater to the whole life cycle of a company, starting up, there's our seeding rounds, angel investors, and all the way to IPO and post-IPO fundraising. So that's what we do as a corporate lawyer.
And do you see this as a growing industry, considering the rise of like technology and more startups?
Yes, I think it's no matter what. I think legal service is still a service industry. So we service, companies. So it depends on the overall economic performance, the overall whether the environment is conducive to startups. So of course we have ebb and flow in the industry. But I think overall it's still growing. Because you see all this technology actually make it more easier for entrepreneurs to actually stand out, to actually build something from scratch. So I think the overall industry, of course, is burgeoning, is growing. Of course, there are economic downturns, there are up and downs, but I think overall trajectory is still growing.
Yeah, and how do you see AI or new technology specifically affecting your job?
It's actually very interesting. So I think the legal profession itself, it's one of the most, I think it's one of the industries that's most resistant to AI, because I think it's generated. Whatever you're producing or generating has to have a very sound legal basis. It's based on rules, based on laws, based on judgments. So I'm sure you've heard about it too. Like there are actually lawyers. I think there was a lawyer back in was in the States. I mean, he was actually writing a legal document through ChatGPT.
Yeah,
and apparently,
I was heard of it.
Yeah, the whole thing is super convincing. It's very lawyerly, but the problem is that they were quoting all the wrong sources.
Yes.
And that's gonna damage the entire reputation of the whole industry. Because it takes a long time to build a belief in the legal profession. The legal practitioners, the judges, the whole system operates on trust and confidence. Right? So if anyone is there or any system is out there to undermine this confidence, that's going to be just detrimental to industrialized. But of course, at the same time, it's actually it's helpful for the industry to move forward, because it just makes writing or searches so much simpler. So I think as a firm, what we are doing is I think we're trying to incorporate certain features of this generative AIs into our everyday practices, but it's going to take a long time to find the right balance between efficiency. Well, actually, it's not a balance. There's no way we can compromise our professionality and the accuracy of the legal content. But we're just trying to see how we can make it easier with the AI technology.
Can you give an example of how it's being integrated at the current moment?
Unfortunately, we're still in the process of doing it.
Okay.
But I would imagine we're still using Google and stuff, right? So maybe there's some tools that can incorporate some features of AI searches or AI generations. But at the same time, there has to be a gatekeeper of the quality of whatever content we are producing. That's right. So I think the overall emphasis will be on the quality of the legal services we are delivering. But at the same time, we're trying to make it easier with AI. Right?
And now you're traveling all over Asia for your occupation.
Yeah, I was traveling, but mostly I'm just spending my time on the plane or in the meeting room. So yeah, so I'm traveling a bit, but unfortunately I'm not really enjoying the travel. It's just mainly just business travel.
Busyness.
That's right.
And so what countries are the ones you're visiting?
So we have offices in Singapore, Korea, Japan, and then Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong. So we do travel regionally quite often. So mainly in Asia in general, but mainly China and Southeast Asia.
And so seeing and living in across a bunch of countries in both the West and the East, tell us a little bit about that and seeing all the differences and what do you like about it?
I don't want to sound narcissistic, but just a little bit more about myself. So I was in China for quite some time, and then Singapore, and actually I landed my first job in Myanmar. So that's part of Southeast Asia. It's actually in a chaos right now, but it was sort of like a very promising land back in 2020. I think they opened up. So I was in between these countries, China, Singapore, Myanmar, for a long time. So Singapore is a very typical example of the concept of bridges between the West and the East. You can see everything from the West and East there. I mean, you can be speaking English while eating a Sichuan hot pot.
Yeah.
Right? You see people talking Chinese in coffee shops. It's really like a melting pot of everything. So it definitely, I think it sparks a lot of ideas, because you're really seeing people from all over the world, and then every one of them bringing different background, different ideas. So that's very exciting. And I think one thing that Singapore is doing particularly good is that it manages to incorporate not only business idea, but integrating different social values and cultural exposures as well. So you do see, people from all sorts of all walks of life, all sorts of religions and ethnicity coming together, achieving something, and living together. So it's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's
I know that exposure to all these different backgrounds really helps build a person and open their eyes to things.
Yes,
and that's one of the reasons why I'm loving my experience here in China, halfway across the world.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so, what's, I guess, on your mind right now? What are your priorities? How is your life going?
Right. Well, I had a daughter 3 years ago. You met her. She loved you very much. So it's, I think, having your own family, of course, is a life-changing event. And I think also through having a kid, you really appreciate how much love your parents are putting to, how much effort, how much love, how much attention. Money, of course. Having a kid is just burning cash, honestly.
But with paybacks in the end.
Well, that's not the goal there, but of course, it's people call it investment. But it's investment of your attention, your emotions, everything. And it's really a life-changing experience, and it really makes me appreciate how much love my parents was giving me as well. And we had a kid during COVID as well. I think COVID changed everyone's life, and that's part of the life-changing event for me as well. It's a double life-changing event. It's COVID plus having a kid.
And so in retrospect, being where you are today and looking back, like a high school student or someone who perhaps just entered university, what advice would you have for them?
Well, I think most people will say enjoy what you have right now. I think one of the reasons that put me back into a master's degree was also, school life is just so much fun, and it's, there's a lot of good memories there. So, after stepping into, a career profession for a while, you feel the need to actually, just to relax a little bit more, gas up. Prepare yourself for another journey. So I guess, if I were you, joining school life is definitely one of the things I will, and the other thing is maybe, I think Chinese society in particular, there's a huge emphasis on keeping yourself on the right track all the time. And they have a very strict definition of what constitutes a right track. Like what kind of jobs are considered more privileged or not. But I think it may not be the best choice, or it may not be the right track for everyone. There's just not a single right track for everyone. It's not possible. Yeah, so I think exploration, having the courage or the open-mindedness, which comes with a multicultural, right. I think that's one thing that Singapore taught me too, like open-mindedness. So I think that's one thing that keep you going. You're willing, and you're willing to try different things. You're already now. You can afford 10 years to try different new things, and then decide on which track is something you want to really go on the rest of your life. So I think don't let people tell you what is right and wrong. Just give yourself a try and see what's the best thing. Maybe that's something I would say.
Of course, it comes to balance. You have to play by the laws and the
definitely as a lawyer,
the basic rules, but that exploration is crucial, and being able to see different things and think for yourself, what's best for me, instead of just absorbing what other people tell you is right or wrong.
And if you think about AI, it's all about they have this algorithm that's exploring all the time, expanding the boundaries.
That's right.
So that's how AI developed. That's how human civilization was as well. It's never about sticking in the box. Right? It's always about exploring a little bit safely, right, and within certain boundaries, but then exploring the boundaries. So I guess that's just how we supposed to do it.
That's beautiful. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.